If you walked into the grocery store today, you probably noticed something. The price of eggs is creeping up again. The meat aisle is shrinking. We are being told everything is normal. But if you're a prepper or a homesteader, you know that 2026 is shaping up to be a year of serious food insecurity. This isn't just about breakfast. This is about control. As long as you rely on a fragile supply system for your protein, you are vulnerable. Today I'm going to show you why chickens are the most powerful tool you have against this coming crisis. I'm going to share some insights from the book I'm writing right now about how to turn a backyard flock into a calorie printing machine that runs almost for free. Now, the skeptics will say, Scott, a coop costs way too much. And if you buy a pre-made plywood palace for $1,500 from Tractor Supply, then you're right. You'll never make that money back. But if you build a functional, predator-proof coop yourself using recycled pallets or basic lumber, you're looking at maybe $400 to $500 all in. And that is your fixed cost that you pay once. So you're looking at $500 for a fixed cost. Your variable cost will be about $25 a month, which is about feed for 6-ish hens or so. And then that'll yield you about 30 dozen eggs per 6 hens. So in total, the chickens are costing you approximately $800 a year. Now, let's compare that to the cost of eggs in a year. Like we said at the grocery store earlier, we found middle of the road eggs around $3 to $4 a dozen. Multiply that by the same 30 dozen that we would have gotten from our coop, and it comes down to about $120. So yes, your own chickens are more expensive, but that's just the cost of bagged feed. The secret weapon for keeping your bill low and your chickens healthy is probably something you're throwing away right now. I'm talking about kitchen scraps, garden weeds, and bugs. To a commercial farm, this is waste. To us, this is free energy. But, and this is a big but, chickens aren't garbage disposals. There are rules, and if you feed them the wrong thing, you can wipe out your flock overnight. So let's go over the green light and red light lists. These are things you should be saving every single day. Vegetable peelings, carrot tops, lettuce cores, and fruit that's gone a little soft. They are gold. They also love leftover cooked pasta, rice, and stale bread, but really treat those like chicken candy. They're high carbs and low in protein, so they're great for winter energy, but don't overdo it in the summer or you'll get fat birds that just don't lay. And also, don't forget about the garden. Weeds like dandelions, chickweed, and clover are packed with vitamins. If you're pulling it out of your garden, just throw it over the run. Just make sure that, this is crucial, that you haven't sprayed anything with herbicides or pesticides. Because if it kills a weed, it'll kill the bird. Now let's talk about the red light list. This is where new keepers make fatal mistakes. Rule number 1, no mold. If it's fuzzy or rotten, throw it out. Mold contains mycotoxins that can shut down a chicken's respiratory system fast. Rule number 2 is no dried raw beans. Raw kidney beans contain a toxin that is deadly to birds. Cooked is fine, but raw is an absolute killer. Rule number 3 is watch the avocados. So this is a tricky one, but the flesh is usually okay, but the skin and the pit contain persin, which is toxic. So personally, I just skipped avocados completely. It's just not worth the risk. And finally, there's green potato skins. So white potatoes are fine, but if the skin is green, it has something called solanine, and keep it out of the coop. So here's my general rule of thumb for all of this. If it's something that I could eat, but choose not to because it's a peel or a core, they can eat it. If it's something that would make me sick, it will also make them sick. Also, never leave the scraps sitting out overnight. If the chickens don't finish it in 20 minutes or so, then clean it up. I know this is hard for us because we'll toss it at the end of the day and it usually stays there for a week or two until it disintegrates. If you aren't feeding your chickens and you're leaving it out, you're feeding the local rat population, and that is a problem that you do not want. By supplementing these scraps, I cut my commercial feed use by about 15 to 20%. Over a year, that is money that stays in my pocket and not the feed store's register, as much as we like them. So not all chickens are the same. If you're in a survival situation, you do not want a delicate chicken that needs a specific temperature in the coop. You're gonna want something that's hardy, dual purpose, lays a lot of eggs, and is a overall general easy to take care of chicken. So we're going to go over a few different breeds that are great for survival chicken keeping. So you'll often see the first breed here as something called barred rocks, and that's because of that black and white striped pattern. But that's actually just the color variety. The breed itself is the Plymouth Rock. And honestly, these are the quintessential dual purpose bird. And so to understand why they're so good, we're gonna have to look at where they came from. These guys are an American original. They are developed in Massachusetts, hence the names, right? In the mid-19th century, so right around 1849. Breeders wanted a bird that could survive harsh New England winters, forage for its own food, and provide enough meat and eggs to sustain a family. And they crossed a few different breeds to get there, supposedly the Dominique, Black Java, and Cochin to get there. And that history is exactly why they are considered a perfect dual-purpose bird. In the poultry world, dual purpose means they aren't specialists. They're generalists, right? A specialized bird, like a leghorn, may lay about 300 eggs a year, but has very little meat on the bones. And a meat bird grows fast, but lays poorly. The Plymouth Rock sits right in the sweet spot. The hens are reliable layers of large, light brown eggs, and you can expect about 4 to ish eggs a week, or roughly 200 to 280 a year. But unlike the egg-laying machines, they have a heavy, broad body. Roosters can even weigh up to 9.5 pounds, and hens about 7.5. And that means if you are raising them for the table, you actually get a substantial meal. They are cold hardy, docile, and friendly. Basically the puppy dogs of the chicken world. If you want a bird that earns its keep in eggs and meat without being high maintenance, the Plymouth Rock is still the champion. So in my book about chicken keeping, I dedicated a whole chapter to the apocalyptic flock. So which are breeds that can go broody and hatch their own eggs, because if you can't replace your flock without a hatchery, you still aren't truly self-reliant. So make sure to check that out, and I'll put a link in the description when it comes out. So what happens if the feed store closes, or if a bag of layer pellets hits $40? Solution number one that we have, in addition to food scraps we talked about earlier, was I put my chickens directly on my compost. It is in the garden, and they work at the pile, eat the bugs, and give me good manure dirt. And it will spread it around, add moisture to it. It's awesome. It's right in our garden, so especially during the winter time when they need heat, which that compost pile will do, we let them in the garden to, clean up the garden, work the compost, all of that stuff. Now, the thing to remember with chickens and composting, right? And I know that I've said this in many videos before, and I'm sure you've all heard it before, is that chicken manure can get very hot, right? And that means not necessarily temperature hot, but the nitrogen content in it can actually kill plants if you just put chicken manure directly onto plants, basically, or in the soil. So if you do this method where you let them pick and poop and everything in the compost and move it all around and break it up, you have to let it sit for at least 6 to 12 months after they are done with it before using it. So our general rule of thumb here is that we let the chickens go into that compost heap in the winter time, and then about this time of year, so February, March timeframe, we'll cut it off. And so late in the summer, we'll have a ton of really good compost that we can use to prep the garden for next year. Number 2 system is that we're going to talk about fodder systems. And so we're going to, basically that means sprouting seeds and to gain some things to eat. Now, sprouting and fodder systems are awesome if you can get them working. They just can be a little complicated to get the system down to produce enough fodder to eat on a regular basis. It is easy to do occasionally, but it just takes a lot of work. And that I say that because you have to have a tray with sprouted like wheat seed, right? And we've done it before. And you pour, after it's sprouted, you pour it in there, and then you gotta constantly add water, but not too much water. Keep it in light during the day, and then after a week, you'll get this layer of think of the sprouts you get at the grocery store, where they have the sprouts and the little base is like just one solid thing, boy, that's what this will do, but a large like garden tray. And then you can just give that to the chickens. It is great, lots of nutrients. They love it. It's a lot of fun for them. It just can be a lot of work. So honestly, if we were in a survival situation, that would be perfect, because we really would just need to work on, be focusing on our garden and our flocks and not have to, do real work. The third thing I wanted to talk about is maggot buckets or black soldier fly larvae. This, I know we're going to larvae, flies, it sounds disgusting. It is, trust me. You have two options with this, right? You can either buy black fly larva, or you can make your own. Making your own can be messy and time consuming and difficult. It is possible. I've never done it, and I've never really wanted to because of the smell. Or you can buy it, it's just they're really expensive. So once again, this goes in the bucket of, if we are in an emergency situation having to live off our land completely and we have to do this, yes, we will grow our own, and because we will have the time and resources to do it. Otherwise, I don't give them to them now because they're just way too expensive and just not worth it. Altogether, though, you really need to stop thinking of your chickens as pets that need store-bought food and start thinking of them as partners that forage. So when most people think about protecting their flock, they think about the fox, maybe a raccoon or a hawk, and sure, those are daily threats. But if you're raising birds as a food security asset, like if this is about a survival, situation during a crisis, you have to change your threat model. In a true food crisis, the most dangerous predator isn't the one with 4 legs, it's the 2-legged predator. Desperation really changes people, and if the grocery store shelves are empty and your neighbor knows you have a steady supply of fresh eggs and meat, you become a target. So standard chicken keeping advice, cute barns, loud roosters, that works in the peacetime like right now. Awesome, great. But in a grid down or high inflation scenario, that's just advertising. And so right now we're going to talk about how we secure those assets. So first principle, visual stealth. So normally, right, you think a chicken coop, you think classic red barn. It's iconic, it's beautiful, and it's a beacon. So from the road, the 3 properties over, everybody knows exactly what that building is. If you want to keep your food source secure, you need to practice OPSEC, which is operational security. You don't want a look at me coop, you want a structure that disappears. Positioning is key as well. So don't put the coop on the road side, facing of your property. Put it on, the side behind your garage, behind the hedgerow. Use a natural sightline barrier. If they can't see it from the street, then they don't know it exists. Also with that, you really need to watch your light discipline. So if you use heat lamps or timed lights for egg production in the winter, you really need to black out those windows, because a glowing box in the middle of the dark neighborhood or on a hilltop or wherever you're at is a just dead giveaway. So speaking of visual stealth, let's talk about noise discipline. And the biggest violator of this is your rooster. Surprise, right? A rooster's crow can be heard from a mile away on a quiet morning, and in a suburban or urban setting, that is a siren announcing the location of your food stocks. So if you're in a high density area, you have to consider either calling your roosters or maybe putting them inside somewhere where they can't be loud, because the tendency is to say get rid of your roosters, right, to cull them. But if you're in a long-term situation, you need your roosters so you can hatch more chickens. So you're kind of stuck. You got to be careful and be really creative with that. And if you do have them, you also need to choose your breeds wisely, because some breeds are like really chatty, like the hens, and they can get loud when they lay an egg. Think they're broody and just squawking. Others, they're like Orpingtons or Australorps, that tend to be quieter. So you really need to think about silence being equivalent to security. You want eggs, not attention. The other thing to think about is hardening the coop here. And let's talk about the physical perimeter, hardening the target. Most beginners buy chicken wire. Looks like this here on screen. It is designed to keep chickens in. It is not designed to keep predators out. A raccoon can rip this apart. A coyote can bite through it. And a desperate person with a pair of rusty pliers can breach this in 10 seconds. What you really need is this. It's just hardware cloth. It's welded wire. It's expensive, but it is armor for this situation. And don't just staple it on, screw it in with high quality screws and washers. You want to make sure it is so difficult to get in that predator, four-legged or two-legged, decides it's too much noise and effort to bother. So, in conclusion, I wanted to build our coop to keep coyotes out, and that was the original plan. But the principles, they're the same for keeping your assets secure from anyone or anything. Stealth, silence, and a hardened perimeter. And it's not paranoia, it's just good husbandry, because really, if you can't protect it, you don't own it. So we talk a lot about doom and gloom scenarios, on this channel especially. But honestly, even when the world doesn't end in 2026, raising these birds is worth it. It teaches my kids about responsibility. It connects us to our food source, and it gives us peace of mind. I've been documenting this journey, and the book I'm writing collects all of these lessons, some of which we talked about today, and the failures and the wins, so you don't have to make the same mistakes. So please keep an eye out for that book. We'll put the links to it in all of our video descriptions when it does come out and make an announcement here on this channel, so make sure you are subscribed. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The best time to start a flock is today. Don't wait until the shelves are empty. So drop a comment below. If you could have only one breed of chicken for the rest of your life, what would it be? I read every comment and I try to respond to all of them, so I'll take a look and we will have a nice discussion in the comment section below about that. Thank you guys very much, and we'll catch you next time.